Tonight, Hogwarts felt different, like it was holding its breath, waiting for something unseen to stir. The castle itself seemed alive, its very foundation steeped in centuries of magic, its walls whispering with secrets yet to be uncovered. Somewhere, deep within its winding passages, lay a room so old, so hidden, that even the professors rarely spoke of it. A place where ancient and forgotten spells lay preserved in time, their power untouched for centuries. As you walk through the halls, your footsteps echo gently against the stone, though no one is there to hear them. The lanterns glow softly around you, their light warm and golden, casting long, flickering shadows against the walls. You feel at ease here, surrounded by the comforting familiarity of Hogwarts, yet there is a quiet thrill in the air, an anticipation lingering just beneath the surface. Outside, the forbidden forest stretches into the darkness, its towering trees swaying slightly in the crisp autumn wind. Beyond the castle grounds, the Black Lake gleams under the pale moon, its surface rippling like liquid silver. Somewhere in the distance, the faint hoot of an owl drifts through the night, a gentle reminder of the magical world that thrives even as the rest of the castle sleeps. You take a deep breath, filling your lungs with the cool, fresh air, and let yourself settle into the peace of this moment. Tonight, a story awaits you, a story of mystery, of magic, and of secrets long forgotten. A journey through the forbidden corners of Hogwarts, where time itself seems to stand still. So close your eyes, let your mind drift, and allow the whispers of Hogwarts to guide you deeper into this enchanting tale. In the quiet glow of the Ravenclaw common room, Elias Thornwell sat curled up in a grand velvet armchair, a thick tome resting on his lap. His dark curls were slightly disheveled, his deep brown eyes scanning the ancient text before him with curiosity. Elias had always been drawn to the hidden knowledge buried within Hogwarts, his hunger for mystery far greater than his fear of the forbidden. Beside him, Lena Fairbrook, his closest friend, was stretched out on the plush carpet near the crackling fireplace. Her long auburn hair shimmered in the firelight as she absent-mindedly twirled the end of a quill between her fingers. Unlike Elias, she was more cautious, more thoughtful, but where he led, she followed, drawn by the thrill of his endless discoveries. Tonight, however, it was Elias who hesitated. He had come across something unusual. A single handwritten note slipped between the pages of an ancient spellbook he had borrowed from the restricted section of the library. The parchment was brittle with age, its ink faded but still legible. There is a door beneath the castle that speaks only in whispers. Find it, and the secrets of lost magic will be yours. Lena peered over his shoulder, her green eyes narrowing as she read the words. This could be some kind of joke, she said, though the doubt in her voice was weak. Hogwarts was full of secrets, and neither of them had ever been good at ignoring a mystery. Elias closed the book and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. A door that speaks in whispers, he murmured. If it exists, it must be connected to one of the hidden chambers beneath the castle. Lena sat up, crossing her arms. It could also be dangerous, she pointed out. There are things buried in Hogwarts that were meant to stay buried. He turned to her, a small smile playing at the corner of his lips. That's what makes it exciting, isn't it? Lena sighed, but couldn't help the flicker of excitement that passed through her. They had uncovered many secrets within Hogwarts over the years, some fascinating, some terrifying, but this was something else. What if it's a trap? She asked. Elias shrugged. Then we leave before we get caught. Lena rolled her eyes. That always works, doesn't it? Despite her protests, she already knew they would go. The idea had planted itself in her mind, weaving into her thoughts like a spell she couldn't shake. Something about this note felt different, as if it was meant for them, as if it had been waiting to be found. A gust of wind rattled the windows, sending the fire flickering wildly for a moment. The castle groaned softly, its old stones settling under the weight of time. Lena exhaled and stood. Fine, but if we get stuck in some cursed room, I'm blaming you. Elias grinned, closing the book with a quiet thud. Deal. And just like that, their journey into the unknown began. The castle was quieter than usual, the deep hush of midnight settling over Hogwarts like a protective spell. Elias and Lena moved carefully through the corridors, their footsteps barely making a sound against the stone floor. The enchanted torches lining the walls flickered with a soft golden glow, casting long, wavering shadows that seemed to stretch and breathe. Lena tightened her grip on her wand, whispering, Lumos, as a faint, silvery light bloomed at the tip. Do you even know where we're going? She murmured, glancing at Elias. Elias, holding the old note in his free hand, studied the words again. A door beneath the castle that speaks only in whispers. He exhaled, thinking. If it's beneath the castle, he reasoned, then it has to be somewhere in the lower levels, probably connected to one of the old dungeons. Lena shot him a wary glance. You mean the ones that haven't been used in centuries? Exactly. Lena sighed, shifting her weight. Great. I love heading toward forgotten parts of the castle where people mysteriously disappear. They moved carefully, passing by the great staircases, which, at this hour, were eerily still. The castle always felt different at night, as if the walls themselves were listening. The portraits remained quiet, their painted figures watching silently as the two students slipped past. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. They passed through a corridor neither of them had ever seen before, its arched ceiling lower, its walls darker, old, faded tapestries lined the stone, the figures within them unmoving, their once bright threads dulled with age. This is getting a bit eerie, Lena muttered. Elias didn't respond. He had stopped in front of an old, crumbling wooden door, partially concealed behind a suit of armor. Something about it felt different. He reached out and pressed a hand against the rough surface. The moment his fingers made contact, a soft whisper filled the air. Lena's breath caught. Did you hear that? Elias nodded, his pulse quickening. He pressed his ear to the wood. Who seeks knowledge? The voice was barely audible, but it sent a shiver down his spine. It was neither human nor ghostly, something in between, something old. Lena swallowed hard. Elias, let's think about this for a second. A hidden door that talks? This isn't a classroom puzzle. Elias pulled back, studying the worn carvings on the door's frame. They were in ancient runes, half erased by time. He could only make out a few symbols, but he recognized one: knowledge. This door wants something, he said quietly. It's testing us. Lena frowned. Testing us how? Elias hesitated before speaking, then looked straight at her. It wants an answer, a question, a knowledge. Lena's brows knitted together. That's very Ravenclaw. Elias turned back to the door, thinking fast. What was a question worthy of an entrance like this? Then it came to him. What was the first spell ever recorded in Hogwarts' history? He asked softly. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the wood beneath his hand warmed. The runes glowed faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. The whispering voice returned, stronger this time. Correct. You may enter. A low creak echoed through the corridor as the door swung open on its own, revealing a passageway descending into the depths of the castle. Cold air spilled out, carrying the scent of parchment, ink, and something darker, something old and untouched for centuries. Lena took a step back. I hate when things like this happen. Elias grinned at her. Too late to turn back now. And with that, they stepped into the unknown, the door whispering behind them as it sealed shut once more. The moment Elias and Lena stepped beyond the whispering door, the temperature seemed to drop. The passage before them sloped downward, carved from dark stone that looked untouched by time. Their footsteps echoed softly as they moved, the flickering light from their wands casting long, twisting shadows against the walls. Lena exhaled slowly. Why do I feel like we've just stepped into something we shouldn't have? Elias shot her a sideways glance. Because we probably have. The tunnel felt as though it had been hidden for centuries, the very air thick with an ancient stillness. Dust swirled in the light of their wands, disturbed only by their movement. Along the walls, symbols and inscriptions were carved deep into the stone, worn with age but still legible. Lena traced a finger over the nearest markings. These runes, they aren't just decoration. This was meant to keep something in. Elias swallowed hard, but didn't slow his pace. The note had spoken of whispers and knowledge, but it hadn't mentioned what lay beyond. He wasn't sure if that was a good thing or a terrible omen. A few steps ahead, the tunnel widened into a circular chamber. The ceiling arched high above them, shrouded in shadows, while rows of towering shelves lined the walls, filled with books and scrolls so ancient their pages looked like they would crumble at a mere breath. In the center of the room stood a stone pedestal, its surface carved with intricate spirals, and a single book resting atop it. Lena let out a slow breath. Well, that's not ominous at all. Elias approached carefully, feeling the weight of the room's silence pressing in around him. As he reached the pedestal, he noticed that the cover of the book bore no title, only a faded, shifting symbol, as if the ink itself was alive. Elias, Lena's voice was a whisper now. I don't think we should touch that. Elias hesitated, but curiosity pulled at him. He reached out, fingers brushing against the rough leather of the book. A sudden gust of wind tore through the chamber. The torches along the walls flared brighter, their flames shifting to a ghostly blue. The very air around them hummed with magic, deep and resonant, like a forgotten voice awakening from slumber. The book snapped open on its own. Lena stumbled backward. Elias. He barely heard her. The pages were flipping by themselves, as though unseen hands were searching for something. Then they stopped. A passage appeared, ink forming in real time, the letters curling into place as if responding to their presence. To those who seek knowledge beyond the bounds of time, beware. The spells within are not meant for mortal hands. Speak, and the room shall listen. Lena grabbed his arm. Tell me we are not about to do something very, very stupid. Elias felt his heart pound. The words on the page pulsed faintly, waiting. What do we do? Lena asked, voice barely above a whisper. Elias licked his lips, then, without thinking, spoke the first question that came to mind. Who created this room? For a moment, nothing happened. Then the walls of the chamber shifted, not physically, but as though reality itself was adjusting. The torches dimmed, and suddenly, shadows on the walls seemed to move. A whisper filled the air, soft but ancient, carried on a breath of unseen magic. Salazar, Slytherin. Lena stiffened. Oh, that's bad. Elias turned toward her. Not necessarily. Lena threw up her hands. Not necessarily. We just found an actual hidden spell chamber designed by one of the most powerful wizards in history, who, might I remind you, was obsessed with blood purity and left behind a basilisk. What part of that is not necessarily bad? Elias was already scanning the room again, thoughts racing. But he was also a scholar. He wanted knowledge to be protected. This room isn't just a library. It's a vault for spells lost to time. Lena groaned. Right. And what do wizards do when they don't want people finding something? They curse it. A sudden rumble interrupted them. The pedestal trembled. The book shuddered, as if responding to their presence. And then the ink began shifting again, rearranging itself into new words. A test must be passed. One question, one answer. Speak true or be lost. Lena grabbed Elias's sleeve. Nope, no way. We are not playing magical trivia with Salazar Slytherin's ghost spellbook. Elias, however, was staring at the book with a mix of excitement and apprehension. His mind was already spinning with possibilities. What if it holds spells that have been forgotten for centuries? He whispered. What if... A soft creak echoed through the chamber. Lena froze. What was that? Elias turned slowly. In the dim torchlight, one of the shadows against the far wall was moving, not flickering like a normal shadow, but gliding, elongating unnaturally. Something had woken up. Lena took a slow step backward. Elias. His pulse pounded in his ears. The air in the chamber felt thick now, like something unseen was stirring just beyond their reach. The whispering voice returned, curling around them like a breath of wind. Speak, or be forgotten. The room was waiting. Elias swallowed. Then, taking a deep breath, he looked down at the book and asked the one question that burned in his mind. What is the greatest spell never spoken? The ink on the page swirled, shifting, the torches flared, and the chamber answered. The moment the words left Elias's lips, a profound stillness fell over the chamber. The ink on the book's pages shifted, reshaping itself into a script that pulsed with an eerie blue glow. The torches flickered, their flames bending toward the book as though drawn by its power. Lena gripped Elias's sleeve. "Elias, I really don't think we should be asking questions." But Elias barely heard her. His gaze remained fixed on the page as a single phrase formed before their eyes: the spell of severed time. A shiver ran down Elias's spine. He had never heard of such a spell before. Even in the most obscure magical texts, there had never been a mention of something so ominous, so absolute. Lena's fingers dug into his arm. "We should go. Now." But the book was not finished. Beneath the name of the spell, more words began to form. Time unbroken, fate unwound, a moment lost may yet be found, a cost unspoken, a price untold, a hand unworthy turns to cold. Elias exhaled sharply. "It's a time spell." Lena's eyes widened in alarm. "Elias, we are leaving." Yet, as she turned to pull him away, the chamber shifted. The shelves that had stood still for centuries groaned as though exhaling, and the shadows lining the walls thickened, curling toward them. A cold wind stirred the air, despite the lack of any visible source, and then a whispering voice. It was not the same ancient whisper that had guided them before. This one was colder, more fractured, like wind through shattered glass. It did not sound human. "Why have you come?" Elias and Lena froze. The voice did not echo like normal sound. It slid across the air, surrounding them, making it impossible to tell where it was coming from. Lena's grip on her wand tightened. "Elias, tell me you heard that." Elias swallowed hard. "I heard it." A chill seeped into the room, coiling around their feet like mist. From the depths of the chamber, something stirred. Elias slowly turned his gaze toward the far end of the room, where a massive stone archway stood, half buried behind rows of ancient books. Its frame was covered in cracked, glowing runes, pulsating with an energy neither of them had ever seen before. Lena's breath hitched. That was not there before. The whispering voice returned, this time closer. "You seek the spell." A shadowed figure began to emerge from the archway. Lena gasped. "Elias, move." But Elias couldn't move. The figure was not walking, it was gliding, a mass of dark mist shaped like a man, its eyes burning like embers. The price must be paid. The room quaked, the stone beneath their feet trembling. The book on the pedestal slammed shut, dust erupting into the air. Elias and Lena took a step back, their breaths coming faster. Lena's voice was barely above a whisper. "Elias, what is this?" Elias's mind raced. He had read about places like this, chambers hidden within Hogwarts, lost to time, housing magic too powerful for even the greatest wizards to wield. But never had he encountered something that answered back. The figure loomed closer, and the torches around them dimmed, the shadows stretching unnaturally. "A hand unworthy turns to cold," the voice intoned, repeating the book's warning. Elias's hand felt frozen, as if the very magic in the room had reached into his bones. His wand flickered, struggling to hold its glow. Lena tightened her grip on him. Elias, we have to go. The figure stopped just before the pedestal, the book resting between them. Who will claim the spell? Lena dragged Elias backward, her voice trembling. We don't want the spell. The chamber rumbled again. The figure did not seem to like that answer. A question asked must be answered. A force pushed against them, like an unseen wind, trying to drag them closer to the pedestal. Elias gritted his teeth. We can't leave without knowing. Lena turned to him, eyes furious. Are you out of your mind? You think this thing is just going to hand over ancient magic and let us walk away? Elias stared at the book, a spell that could sever time, that could undo fate. He forced himself to speak. What is the cost? For the first time, the chamber fell completely silent. Then, a whisper so quiet it barely existed. Memory. Lena's breath hitched. Elias. The spell does not break time. It takes it. It buries it deep, leaving behind only echoes. The meaning settled heavily in Elias's mind. To cast the spell meant to erase oneself from the moment it was used. Lena gripped his arm. We're leaving. Now. The figure began drifting closer. A question answered. A path opened. Elias barely had time to register the words before the stone archway ignited with blue fire. Beyond it, not darkness, but a corridor, a place beyond this chamber. Lena's panic spiked. Nope, no. That is how people die, Elias. Elias hesitated. The choice is yours. The flames along the archway shimmered, as if waiting for a decision. The book remained closed, silent and unreadable. The figure loomed, watching them. The chamber itself seemed to be holding its breath. Lena whispered, Please, Elias, this is not our fight. Elias met her gaze, his mind at war. To leave meant to abandon the knowledge forever. To stay meant stepping into the unknown. The fire in the archway flickered, the whispers deepened, and in that moment, Elias made his choice. The decision had to be made. Elias and Lena stood before the glowing archway, the weight of forgotten magic pressing against them like an invisible force. The figure in the shadows loomed, waiting. Elias took a deep breath, his hand still tingling from the spell's icy touch. The temptation was overwhelming, a chance to grasp knowledge lost to time, magic that even Hogwarts itself had buried. But as he stared at the swirling blue fire within the arch, the whispered warning still echoed in his mind. A hand unworthy turns to cold. He turned to Lena, whose expression was tight with fear, frustration, and something deeper, concern. Elias, she whispered, this magic is wrong. You feel it, don't you? It doesn't want to teach us. It wants to take. Elias clenched his fists, heart pounding. The figure by the pedestal had not moved, but its presence was suffocating, its glowing ember eyes watching him too closely. Something was off. The archway's blue flames flickered and pulsed, their rhythm unnatural, like a heartbeat out of sync. Lena's grip on his wrist tightened. Elias, we don't need to know. We're enough as we are. Those words struck something inside him. For years, he had sought answers, more magic, more knowledge, more understanding, but standing here, in the deepest shadows of Hogwarts, with the whispers of a forgotten power offering him secrets at a terrible cost, was this really what he wanted, or was it a trap? His mind flashed to every dark story he had read about wizards who had gone too far, reached too deep. There was always a cost, and if this was magic Hogwarts had chosen to bury, maybe it was never meant to be found. Elias took a step back. The chamber reacted instantly. The torches flared violently, shadows stretching and twisting. The whispers rose into a chorus, not just one voice, but many, dozens, maybe hundreds, all murmuring at once. You deny the path. The figure by the pedestal finally moved. It did not lunge, did not attack, but it reached out a hand. A deep rumbling vibrated through the floor. The archway shuddered, the blue flames flickering wildly. Lena yanked Elias backward as the entire chamber trembled, books sliding from their shelves, dust billowing from the cracks in the stone, and then the archway's fire began to fade. The whispering voices turned to hisses, retreating as though something unseen was pulling them away. The shadowy figure stilled, its outstretched hand curling into a fist before it vanished like mist, dissolving into air. The book on the pedestal snapped shut with a loud, echoing thud, and the room fell silent. The cold presence lifted. Elias and Lena stood frozen, their breath heavy in the now deathly quiet chamber. Slowly, the normal warmth of the castle returned, as if the magic had finally been sealed away again. Lena was the first to move. She exhaled shakily and looked at Elias. Let's never do that again. Elias let out a breathless, nervous laugh. Agreed. They turned, stepping carefully around the fallen books as they made their way back through the winding corridors of the hidden library. As they reached the door leading out, Lena hesitated and cast one last glance back at the chamber. The archway was still there, but now dull, its runes dark and lifeless. Do you think it's gone? She asked softly. Elias followed her gaze. I don't think something like that ever really goes away. Lena shivered. Let's just hope it stays buried. With that, they slipped through the door, the enchantment sealing it behind them. The castle was quiet now, the hallways bathed in warm torchlight. Elias felt the tension in his chest finally release. Lena nudged him. Next time, can we do something normal, like sneaking into the kitchens? Elias chuckled. Deal. They walked on, leaving the whispers of the Forbidden Spells room forever behind. The long corridors of Hogwarts stretched before them, bathed in the flickering golden glow of torches. The echoes of their footsteps felt softer now, as if the castle itself had let out a relieved sigh, settling back into its ancient, watchful stillness. Elias and Lena walked in silence for a while, their thoughts heavy with what had just transpired. The air in the castle was noticeably warmer than the cold, eerie stillness of the Forbidden Spells room. The whispers were gone. The unsettling presence had faded, but the feeling of having touched something forgotten, something too powerful, too dangerous, that lingered in the back of Elias's mind. He exhaled slowly, stealing a glance at Lena. She looked deep in thought, her brows drawn together as they ascended a flight of stairs toward Ravenclaw Tower. "You're quiet," he murmured. Lena glanced up, offering a small, tired smile. "Just thinking." "About?" She hesitated, then shrugged. How easily we could have been lost in that room. How tempting it was to keep going. Elias nodded. He understood. He had felt it too. The promise of forbidden knowledge was intoxicating, more so than any spell he had ever learned. But there was something far more valuable than any ancient spell or forgotten magic. He looked at Lena, the one person who had kept him grounded when curiosity threatened to consume him whole. "I'm glad we left," he admitted quietly. Lena smiled, a warm, genuine thing. "Me too." They finally reached the entrance to the Ravenclaw common room. The enchanted bronze eagle knocker gleamed in the dim torchlight, its metal wings folded elegantly. A soft, melodic voice rang out. "What is a question that has no answer?" Elias and Lena exchanged a look. Lena smirked. "That one." The door swung open without hesitation, and the two friends stepped inside. The Ravenclaw common room was as inviting as ever, its vast domed ceiling enchanted to reflect the starry night sky. Plush armchairs and soft blue and bronze draperies lined the walls, the warm glow of floating candles casting long, stretching shadows across the floor. It was peaceful. It was safe. Elias and Lena sank into their favorite armchairs near the fireplace. The gentle crackling of the flames filled the space between them, wrapping them in warmth. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Lena sighed, curling into her chair. "Let's never do anything that reckless again." Elias chuckled. "Give it a week." Lena shot him a tired but amused look, and Elias grinned. The weight of the night's events was fading, replaced by the quiet comfort of home, of friendship, of knowing that they had made it back. Safe, whole, together. And as the embers in the fireplace flickered softly, Elias let himself sink into the warmth, allowing his eyelids to flutter closed. Outside, the castle stood silent, the stars wheeling gently overhead. And somewhere, deep in the forgotten corridors of Hogwarts, the secrets of the Forbidden Spells room remained undisturbed for now. The night had settled into a deep, peaceful silence. The stars outside the enchanted windows of Ravenclaw Tower gleamed like scattered diamonds across a velvet sky, and the warm golden light of the fireplace flickered softly, casting gentle shadows on the walls. Elias leaned back in his chair, stretching his legs toward the fire's warmth. The weight of the night's adventure still clung to him, but it was no longer a restless feeling. Rather, it was the quiet hum of knowing they had stepped close to something ancient, something forbidden, yet had chosen to walk away. Lena curled deeper into her chair, her fingers wrapped around a cup of warm cocoa that the house elves had sent up minutes ago. The scent of chocolate and cinnamon lingered in the air, blending with the soft crackle of the fire. "We made it back," she murmured, almost as if she were reminding herself. Elias turned his gaze toward her, studying the way the firelight reflected in her eyes. "We did." Lena took a slow sip from her cup, her mind clearly still tracing the path they had taken through the Forbidden Spells room. The voices, the eerie whispers, the strange pull of knowledge. It all seemed so distant now, like the fading fragments of a dream. "What do you think will happen now?" she asked softly. Elias exhaled, staring into the flames. "Nothing," he answered after a moment. "For now, Hogwarts sleeps. The castle keeps its secrets." Lena nodded, seemingly satisfied with that answer. A gentle breeze from the high tower windows ruffled the drapes, carrying with it the faintest echo of a whisper, so distant that it could have been the wind, or perhaps the castle itself, exhaling into the quiet night. But neither of them reacted. They had made their choice. They had returned, safe. Elias let his head rest against the back of his chair, his body sinking into the comfort of the common room. The warmth of the fire, the softness of the flickering candlelight, the steady presence of Lena nearby, it all wrapped around him like a protective spell. His eyelids grew heavy, his thoughts drifting like fallen leaves over the quiet lake of sleep. Lena's voice, soft and distant, was the last thing he heard before sleep took him. "Good night, Elias." A pause, then his quiet, murmured response. "Good night, Lena." The flames flickered, the castle stood still, and somewhere, in the deepest, most hidden corners of Hogwarts, the secrets of the Forbidden Spells room remained, waiting for another restless soul to listen. But not tonight. Tonight was for rest, for warmth, for peace. And as the last ember in the hearth let out a soft golden glow, all was quiet once more.